Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people around the community. And we are taping this show on Monday, November the 6th. My guest today is Conneaut Area High School football Spartan coach, Rocco Dobran. Rocco, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Great to have you here. You've been here before a couple times, and we really love you here in Conneaut. Now, this season that just ended, this is going to be a season-ending interview, and perhaps if we have time, we'll look into the future a little bit. Completed your 7th year here at Conneaut, is that correct?
Yes.
How did you land here in Conneaut? How did that take place?
It was kind of a meant to be thing, or kind of luck of the draw, I guess. But I was looking for head coaching jobs. I was young. I did a lot of coaching, assistant coach, and I wanted a head coaching job. And one of my buddies was looking for a teaching job, and he saw the posting on ODE, because it wasn't on OHSAA. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even look for coaching jobs on there. And so he calls me and he said, "Hey, there's a job open in Conneaut." He said, "But the deadline's tomorrow."
Oh, wow.
So it was one of them things where it was like the day before he saw it, he gave me a call, and he knew I wanted to be closer to home, and he knew I was looking for head coaching jobs. And so I called, which was Don Zappatelli, who I didn't know at the time, obviously. And I said, is it too late to get an application? I know the deadline's tomorrow. Can I email it? And she said, "That's perfectly fine, whatever." And then 2 interviews later, things worked out. So once we interviewed, we felt like it was a good fit for our family, and it was a good job to take. So
we're glad you're here. And you teach, of course, in the Conneaut School District. High school or middle school?
Middle school.
Middle school. And what do you teach?
Math.
Always have taught that all 7 years?
I've kind of gotten back and forth between math and phys ed.
Okay.
So with the recent cuts, though, it put me back in the math classroom, which it's actually kind of exciting. So
you have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders?
Just 8th grade this year.
8th grade.
Yes.
Okay. This year, of course, your team finished 5-5. What people don't realize, though, of the 5 losses that you have, 3 of those teams had a record of 30-0. Am I correct on that? Woodstown, Prep, and Grand Valley.
Yes.
I didn't get to see the Mercyhurst Prep game. How would that 10-0 team rank against the other 2 10-0 teams you played?
I think that they are definitely the best team that we played. Just on paper for sure. Mm-hmm. I believe they had 7 kids that were D1 prospects. Whether they go to D1 or not, I don't know. But I know they already had a Penn State commit, and that their tight end was definitely a Division I. He's getting a lot of action from Division I colleges. So just talent-wise, above all, I think they're definitely the most talented team. I mean, we're lucky if we see 1 D1 kid a year, 2 D1 kids a year that we face. And they had 7 possibles on their team. So they were a very good Mercyhurst Prep team. And they're still playing in the PA playoffs, actually. Mm-hmm. They were a great team. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I mean, Rootstown, they had one of them
playing too.
Yeah, they had one of them classes. And their coach even said that they're usually like a 500 team. 4-6, 6-4, right around there. And he said they had one of them classes that's been good since their freshman year, who just excelled and that kind of thing. So,
one of the things this year was going after 5 straight winning seasons. Which way do you look at it, Rocco? You didn't have 5 straight winning seasons, but 5 straight seasons without a losing record. Which way do you want to look at it? I choose the second win.
Yeah, right. So we definitely wanted that 6th win so that we could say we had, a winning season. And then I guess we just accept the second one. Mm-hmm. Well, at least we didn't have a losing season. But it really, like kind of like you just said, and these kids had a great season in my mind. Where we were the first game, going into La Brea, they were at that time they were probably a better team. Since we started 6, 7 sophomores, so that was their first go, that was their first start, So I think at that moment they might have been a better team, although I'd like to play them later in the year just to see once our sophomores developed, mm-hmm. And got better as the year went on. So really the only game that we wish we could have had back as a team is the Harbor Creek where we lose by 2, and they got 2 trick plays in the first quarter, mm-hmm. with their 2 touchdowns, or at least set up their 2 touchdowns. That's a game we'd like back for that 6th win. But the other games, at least 2 of them were definitely better than us, and our kids. I thought they played great against Mercyhurst Prep, and I thought they gave a lot of effort against in the other games.
You can almost say the same thing about the Grand Valley game as well, because you guys won the second, third, and fourth quarter by 3.
Right.
But you got off to that slow start.
Absolutely. They have a very special kid on in their team offensively, and it was hard to stop. Yeah. And
McCuffrey.
Yeah. So in our eyes, we would have wanted that game to be a 42-40 game, or a high scoring game where maybe we could win at the end, because we weren't stopping them defensively. But our offense definitely, we made a lot of mistakes. Interception for a touchdown. We fumbled on the 2-yard line. There was one play where we had, a linebacker was, and then they scored the next play. So there were some things that happened that were definitely, offensively. I think we ended up having more yards than them overall. Mm-hmm. So definitely, we would like to have that game back just to see where it goes. But when I went back and looked at the film that game too, and this is just something I contribute to the seniors, is they played awesome. They played awesome. It was kind of like, if you look at where we struggled defensively and some of the turnovers were, again, by sophomores who are great players, but they made sophomore mistakes, But our seniors really, if you watch our offensive line that game, they had played it phenomenal, and they were moving Grand Valley's line and getting their linebackers, and I think Mikey Williams had 100 yards in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then he got a concussion. So, but that's a game that we would like back too, just because it's a rival game and that kind of thing. But again, they're a very good team, very good ball club,
and they lost a tough one against Wycliffe.
Yeah, and I heard that Hernandez got hurt.
Yes, he did.
So he didn't play the second half.
Right.
And they only lost by 3. So.
What's your theory on what we hear a lot in sports, especially when you're playing the better teams? How important do you think it is to score first?
You know what? It's definitely important, especially with high school kids. I think it's when you're good every year and consistently, and you're at the top. I think it doesn't matter as much, because your kids expect to win, and they have that confidence. Like, okay, the other team scored, that's okay. We're gonna go. But when a team doesn't really know their identity yet, they're not sure how good they are. They're trying to feel things out for themselves. Then it kind of hurts them, because they lose that confidence right at the beginning of the game, and then something has to happen for them to start believing in themselves. They have to get that, that motivation from somewhere, and I felt like we went into a couple games where we didn't come out believing we were the better team. We had to find out if we were good enough, So they come out kind of playing like, let's see if it hurts when they hit us. Let's see if how good they are, and then we will realize, oh, hey, we can play with these guys. And then they, even some of the teams that we beat big, they came out, Titusville, which ended up being a blowout, but they came out and scored the first drive. They had like a 60-yard run, their second play of the game. But I think, again, our kids were kind of sitting back like, how are these guys going to be? And they come out and score on us, Mm-hmm. And then once we went back and scored right away, then they got that confidence. Oh, okay, we can beat them. And then, so it's something that we got to work on, something.
Well, quite an accomplishment, though, for you. 5 years, as I said, without a losing season. You have to go back 32 years ago. We're a little bit spoiled now. 32 years ago, that hasn't happened since 1980 through 85, where they had that kind of a record. And during that time, they were outstanding at 49-11 during that 5-year period. So that was a good period of football. But since then, until this last 5 years, that's quite an accomplishment for you and your coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely is, and we're kind of at the spot where we don't want to get stagnant here. You know what I mean? We obviously don't want to go down, but we want to say, hey, what are we going to do as a staff? What are we going to do as a program? And get the kids to buy. What can we do now to get to that next level? What can we do to be a playoff team consistently? But we are definitely happy with where we've came from. Mm-hmm. I mean, we started off 1-19 when I came. And you
stole my next question. Go ahead. I was going to say 1-19 after your first 2 years.
Yeah.
What was your mindset then at that time?
I really don't remember totally, but I do remember obviously thinking, well, I remember being very happy the way we finished that 0-10 year. At that point, we moved Troy to quarterback about halfway through the season. In the last 4 games, we competed. I think the only team that we really didn't compete with out of the last 5 games was Brookfield. So 4 out of the last 5 we competed. I remember we played a very good Edgewood team at that time, and they beat us by 7. They made the playoffs that year. And I think double overtime, we lost to Gilmore Academy. So like things got better. So I went in with like you know what, things got better. I think we can get a couple wins next year. And then it turned around to be a 6-win.
Oh, they got way better. 30 and 20 in your last 5 years.
Yeah. So, but I mean, going in, obviously I had that, I hope we can be as good as I think we can, but I didn't, after going 1-19, you still have that, but the kids bought in.
Was a lot of that, Rocco, that 1-19 stretch, was a lot of that not enough players? Because we were paying to play back then, were we not?
We were. It might have a little bit to do with it. I think there's a lot that went into it. It was my first year as a head coach, so I made several mistakes myself, and just learning the scheme. I know I came in and I think we did too much early. Like I came from some good programs and I've seen a lot of football, and I kind of came as a head coach putting in a lot of stuff, and it was all new to these kids because my terminology was new. We ran a spread offense, so we didn't really have developed receivers because they ran the wing T and ran the ball majority of the time. So everything was new. I kind of put in too much. There was a lot of stuff that all went together. And then my second year we had 33 kids, and it was 33 kids. It wasn't, we were practicing with like 24, And then I remember that 6 and 4 season we had 33 kids, but out of 33 kids we were practicing with 30 every day. Like it was a different 33. And then after we got over the hump there with that first winning season, next year 60 kids came out. We had 60. Now we're still sitting back to 40, 42, 45. Losing some numbers again, but that's something that again, it's one of our off-season focuses this year. How are we gonna get numbers back up? So It's kind of like, hey, let's start over. What are the things we did early to get numbers? Let's go back to that. Because sometimes you get used to things and you stop doing those things you did when you first started.
The sophomore class that's coming up, that's pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know exact numbers, but they're a very talented class. They're sending about 12, 14 kids. And it's a very, like we said, we had like 7 sophomores start this year, something like that at some point.
You mentioned your 3 6-win season. You also had a 7-win season. Another accomplishment for you. That's the first time that's happened in 25 years that the team has won at least 7 games in a season. So that's good. You have to go all the way back to 1992 for that.
Oh, wow.
So you got 2 big goals there that you should be proud of.
Yeah, we are. We're proud as a staff, as a program, and like I said, so the next step is, we want to continue it definitely, and we're happy with it. We just want to say, what can we do to just get to that next level? Because I know the last 2 years we were, this year would have been an outside shot, but if we could have won 1 game last year, any of them, or 2 this year, we're right in that playoff hunt. So
playing in that District 10 now for the second year in a row, how's that comfort level now playing those schools?
I think we're getting real comfortable with it. It's just playing in a league. It's fun. It really adds a lot to what you're practicing for every week. It's not just early on we're playing to win each individual game. What we knew too, and our schedule early on was you had to win almost 9 games. 8 maybe, get in the playoffs, win 9, and now it's like, well, we're playing for a conference championship, and then on top of that, you're playing for, then to make the playoffs. So it's kind of a double deal there, but there's some more purpose there. So you almost have a second season. You play your first couple games, and you get into, hey, we're getting into, this is our conference. Let's, and so it gives the kids a little extra to play for, and it just makes it fun. And you're seeing the comparison every week, like this team, all of us play each other, so you're seeing it on film. This team beat this team, and this team beat that team, and you try to place yourself. Well, if this team beat this team, then we can beat them, and or this team did this against them. Where our schedule wasn't consistent before that, and the other teams that we played weren't playing each other necessarily. So you might see one common game, or maybe we're seeing all common games. It makes it a lot of fun to be in a league, and since the PA League's the one to let us in, it's kind of working out well for us. And
yeah, I think you're 9-3 against those schools in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So it's going well.
My guest today is Rocco Dobran, head football coach of the Conneaut Spartans. Rocco, like last year, this year you got off to an 0-2 start, losing the first 2 games of the season. How does the team? What's the team's mood like the last 2 years after 0-2? Because then you went on and won 5 of your last 8.
Last year was a little different because I don't think we were. I don't know how to say it. Last year's team was, I think they needed those first 2 losses because last year in week 2 we should have never lost a champion, and we did. And so there were some things not going right in practice. We weren't practicing right. It was a kind of eye opener for the players. It was an eye opener for myself. But we weren't where we needed to be. And after that loss of champion, I really think it was a wake-up call to us. It was, hey, we're not doing things right. Our leadership isn't right. And if our leadership's not right, that's my fault. Like, if I don't have our captains where they need to be, we need to get them where we want them to be as a coaching staff. So, but after that week 2 game, we had some good heartfelt talks that Saturday after that. And really our practice got a lot better. The tempo got better. I mean, the coaching staff did a great job, and the kids bought into it. This year, I really didn't have the feel like our kids. I think they played hard. I thought they played hard game 1. I thought they played hard game 2. I think the teams were just a little bit better than them. We had a lot of sophomores on the field, so I think their attitude was good the whole way. They were kind of filling out how good they were or how good they weren't, but I didn't feel like it was ever a lack of leadership on their part. I was never disappointed like they gave up. Or that they weren't practicing good, because I think they were practicing good even at that point. They just, the Rootstown team was a really good team. They had a Division I back and good teams. Yeah,
they're 11-0 right now.
Right. You know what I mean? I just kind of feel like it was a situation where, you know what, you always say that you're not going to be mad at your kids if the team's just better than them, and I kind of felt that way. Like, hey, this team's better than you, and you guys, you went out and you played hard, and they were better than you, and. Last year that wasn't the case. Last year champion wasn't better than us, and so that's kind of the difference.
Is Rootstown a 1-year contract, or do you have them again next year?
It is a 1 year. The way the PA League works is kind of different. So next year we don't have a week 2 yet. We're kind of still looking for one. But
are you looking in the county?
We are. We have some stuff set up that we're trying to get some county schools for 2 years from now. A lot of those county schools are in the All-American Conference. So they're trying to figure out their schedule because the All-American's kind of splitting up, and then it's not split. I don't know, whatever they got going. So, but most of them are saying in 2 years there's a possibility, nothing's in writing, but there's a possibility that Edgewood gets back on the schedule, and that we're trying to get Jefferson back on the schedule. So we're trying to get that done in 2 years. Nothing's final, but we're really working hard on it. But this January. Probably February for sure, but January to February, the PA League does their schedule every 2 years, but the way they do it, it's not making your own schedule. They give you your schedule. So once they tell us who we're playing this February, then we kind of got to fill those holes. So hopefully they keep us around the same. I mean, it's going to be the same teams for the most part, I assume, but hopefully they can keep our, around the same weeks that we play now, so that we don't have to all of a sudden say that we can't play a team here, we can't play if they give us a week 10 game, then all of a sudden we can't play Grand Valley, or if they give us a week 1 game, then we can't play LeBret. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. So is that why the one Pennsylvania school we play is not a conference game? That's Oil City.
Right.
Is that why they took the spot of Geneva?
Yeah, they told us we're giving you a crossover game, and
so you had to pick Oil City.
Yeah, so they gave us that
long distance.
Yes,
long distance travel there, huh?
Yeah, that was kind of a communication somewhere because we thought we only had to play our conference games and the rest were going to be Ohio. And then they gave us that game, and then, how much do you want to fight it when they just let us in the league?
Yeah, right.
So they're, but it's been great. All the coaches have treated us great, and everything we've heard from their people up top have appreciated us about, they've talked about how respectful our teams have been in all sports, going down to the PA schools and playing. So.
Of course, week 1 you did play LeBret. kind of a similar outcome to the first year you played them, as far as score, at least as far as final score went?
Yeah. This year was a little bit. Last year the difference was last year we got to a slow start, and then we played okay, but they had a really good team last year. This year they were good, but we came out 14-0 out the gate. We were moving the ball, and then they made some adjustments, and we had a hard time getting a first down for 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter we started throwing the ball a little bit, which we were a little hesitant because Brandon was a sophomore, first time starting. And so we did throw a touchdown pass late. So our score was a little, it was close, but it was a tough one. When you go up 14-0 and then they score 35 unanswered, But they were good. They had a lot of good receivers and good quarterbacks. So.
Then you ran into Rootstown, of course, there in week 2, and we know about that game. The thrilling game, I thought, was against Oil City, the home opener. Big comeback win there late in the game against the Oilers. I got to talk about my buddy Nathan Lauer catching 2 big passes there late in the game. I think the tying one with 2 minutes to go, and then with 20 seconds, the winning one. Both receptions from Brandon Smile. Had to make his season.
Absolutely. It was a great day for him. But it was one of them games where, we had a hard time stopping their running back. And then they kept giving it to him. I think he had 50 carries. But offensive game both ways, and we found a play that worked for us, and it was our screenplay to Nathan. And we actually hit it early in the game where he had like a 40-yard reception. It wasn't a touchdown, but it set up a touchdown. And then we threw it twice in that same drive to get the first touchdown. And I remember Coach Paston actually was on our sideline. He goes, run it again. And I'm like, we can't run it again. They're going to intercept it. They got to know it's coming, And then we got to a crunch time. There's so many seconds left on the clock. We're like, all right, we'll run it again. And touchdown again. So they didn't make the adjustment,
Yeah, it was really a thrilling game.
And it was exciting.
It was exciting. And it was so... I was so happy for Nathan, too, because I feel he's a little bit underrated on the team, but he really isn't. I mean, he stands out. I mean, you don't hear, like, Nathan Lauer and the Conneaut Spartans are coming to town. You might hear Mike Williams and the Conneaut Spartans coming to town. But what about Nathan Lauer?
You're absolutely 100% right. He's a kid that does I think there's so many kids in that senior class that are all in similar abilities. And they all happen to be like linemen. And none of them, like all year this year when we want to go on a radio show, you hear about the skilled guys who are the underclassmen. But it's because that offensive line is so good. And they play defensive line, they play linebacker. And you're right. And I think you'll see once some awards start coming out over the next, I think you will hear Nathan's name come up as getting some awards, you know what I mean? Where some recognition that he deserves, because
definitely he's got to be first teamer.
He's a kid that I think he led the team in tackles when it came down to it. He ended up leading the team in tackles, and we had a rotation with the linebackers, so it's not like he probably played most of the time, but not all the time, because we did have 3 linebackers rotating. He played that fullback slot position that he was kicking out on all our power plays, and sometimes he would block back on our counter play, which is very important. And we'd slip him out in the pass game every once in a while. He played the outside receiver when we needed him to. And he was a great blocker out there. And he didn't get a ton of catches out there, but he got a couple, probably got 6 or 7 catches out there with hitches and stuff. And then sometimes we went double tight. He's the other tight end, him and Alan Christine. So he just played multiple roles, and he was very effective wherever we put him. And you're 100% right. He's one of them kids that kind of gets overlooked, but then he's always making a play.
He's always over the field, always energetic. And last year, speaking of making a plays, I remember him intercepting a pass on the sidelines, and he ran it back. He's not the fastest of guys. Right. He ran it back quite a ways. I think it was in that thrilling game against Titusville.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of clinched at the end there.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Titusville, you shared the conference with them last year. This year, you had no problems rolling right over Titusville, but they lost a lot of players.
They did. They had 9 guys that played both ways because they kind of were small in numbers. Mm-hmm. So they had 9 very good players that were seniors, and they played both sides of the ball. So there was only like two returners on both sides of the ball, And their quarterback last year was a special kid. He ended up getting like all conference player and of the whole conference, like he was a special kid. And they put a good line last year, 5 good linemen in front of him.
He had to be special to beat out Tyson.
Yes, and he was a really special player. And they lost all of them, so they were a whole new team this year.
Mm-hmm. You had the Corey game, if I remember correctly. That was a pretty competitive game at the stadium.
Yeah, I think we kind of did what we wanted.
I think that was our homecoming game.
Yeah, they did just enough to stick around a little bit, but we moved the ball very well offensively, and we stopped their run game, what they wanted to do. But they hit a big pass on us. So we got up 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then they hit a big pass, and then so they were in it. And then I think we scored another touchdown, but then they had one drive where they ended up scoring. So they kind of kept themselves close. We did I think we got up to the 30 mark, where if you go up 30, the running clock goes. And then we put in our 2s, and they got another late touchdown. So they were never real close, but they stayed close enough just to keep it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, you lost to Corey last year, but that score was kind of deceiving. It was a little closer than you would think.
Yeah, it was kind of like the Grand Valley game where we had a hard time stopping them, but our offense moved the ball 20-20. But once we got inside the 20, we couldn't score. Mm-hmm. It was one of those kind of deals, and obviously, and that's where Mikey's run started, because Mikey ran for, I think he had 300 yards against Titusville and then 300 yards against Corey back-to-back there. Mm-hmm. So he had 2 300-yard games. So
the Huskies game, the Harbor Creek game, that was in Erie. You mentioned the trick plays there at the beginning. How did you handle that after that hit you real quickly like that?
I kept telling the kids, like, hey, they got a trick play on us, who cares? You know what I mean? That doesn't mean they're better, you just keep playing, And then they got another one. So, they go up 14-0, and or that was actually 13 because they missed an extra point. But I said, just keep playing, there's no big deal. You guys are playing great, you're doing well. We just kind of struggled to find what would work for us offensively. And that's where we kind of, were hurting, because offensively we didn't move the ball that first half, so it put us down 13-0 at half. And then we came out the second half and really played great. They just did a decent job of holding the ball, where I think we only had like 4 possessions the whole second half, and we scored on 2 of them. And the other one we got like 2 penalties where they backed us way up. So we only had like 3 possible possessions where we're in a decent situation. And actually the last possession of the game was we got the ball on our own 5-yard line, and we had a score within like a minute and a half. And I think we completed 2 passes and fumbled the ball. So it was kind of a long shot as it was. So really, the two times that we actually had the ball in a good spot, we drove and scored both times. We just ran out of time. We figured it out too late against them.
That's something your teams have been very good at. They don't make too many mistakes as far as fumbles, and very good at penalties. I mean, they don't make very many penalties.
Right, and that was what was kind of weird about that game. We had a lot of penalties in that game. So, but some people will blame the refs here or there. I never blame that, because you got to play through that. They're doing their best.
You never blame the ref, huh?
Not to the kids.
Yeah, right.
Maybe when I go home to the wife, but not to the kids.
Then you came home after that Harbor Creek game against Girard. That was a big game for Mike Williams. Of course, he went over 1,000 yards in that game. And if you stop, and I had Mike on the show. Thanks for letting me talk with Mike and Brandon and the other seniors they had before the season started. It was enjoyed talking to the kids. Mm. And I said to Mike, you accomplished 1,000 yards in 8 weeks. Really 6 weeks, because he said his first 2 weeks were not very good.
Yeah, and that's Mike being humble. And he's true rushing yards, but he still had over 100 yards total against LeBray, I believe, because he had he's real close, because he had 40 rushing, but then he had another 50 or 40 receiving that game, and he had a touchdown. And then Rootstown, he did struggle, and they were all over him. I think they kind of keyed him out. That was the guy they wanted to stop. But then Rootstown, or the Oil Cities, where he did have 100 yards, and he had an 80-yard touchdown called back. And I still can't find the penalty on that play. But so that was kind of his breakout game there, that Oil City game. But yeah, the first 2 games, yeah, he was, he wasn't where he wanted to be. But I think after the Oil City game, he gained confidence. He kind of got the feel for it because some of the runs he's had all year were just phenomenal.
Almost had 1,500 yards. Probably would have reached it if he didn't have the.
And he was 18 yards away.
Injury there.
They came up 18 yards.
Yeah, 18 yards short.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize it was even that close.
Yeah, it's 1482. I think.
Wow. So a great year for Mike Williams. Then you closed out the home season with a big win against Fairview. They were a little bit undermanned.
Yeah.
They had some adversity problems there. What do you take from that game?
It was a situation where I was just glad our kids did what they can do. As far as you come in a situation, they had a really good quarterback and a really good tailback, and then they get in a bad situation, the other team, where a lot of kids quit that week, and you hate to see that. But I thought their kids came in and really played hard.
Yeah, that one guy, I can't think of his name, the big runner there for
Fairview.
Moran or something like that.
And they played hard, and I felt like on our side, hey, what do you do when you get in a situation like that? You really can't do anything. You just play your best football, And I thought our kids played good, but they played classy. Yeah. They didn't do anything, out of the ordinary. They just played their game, and it was a clean, good football game. So I was proud of them.
They always say don't feel sorry for anybody because they're not going to feel sorry for you.
Well, right. That's what we because our kids didn't know going into the game that was the situation. I knew as a coach, but I was like, hey, if they still got their tailback and their quarterback, they could score on any play.
Exactly. Yeah. We talked about the 9 outstanding seniors we got, Rocco. I'm sure you've had plenty of great seniors on the team before, but just something special about this group of seniors, all 9 of them.
Absolutely, and I told them guys this is a true statement. It's not something that I say every year, and it's definitely not something that has really been true. But truth is, as a coaching staff, we appreciated the fact that it was the least headaches we've had as a team, and that goes to say great things about their leadership too.
And what example they're setting for the freshmen and sophomores.
Because it was a group that. We didn't have problems on the practice field. We didn't have problems off the practice field. You're always going to have your minor stuff here or there, but it was so limited this year where, you could just coach football and you didn't have to worry about a lot of the outside stuff because those guys set a good precedent for everybody else, and it just flowed. They loved the weight room. They came to practice every day. There's always those kids that miss. They'll leave 8th period or 7th period of class so they don't have to come to football that night. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have any of that this year, and it was it was all because of their leadership. And if you just watch their play as a group, even though a lot of the sophomores got recognition for being good athletes around them, and juniors like Mikey, but if you just watch their play up front, they were so good. And then you had Kyle Gaw was a phenomenal corner. Teams try to pick on him all the time, and they couldn't. No matter what they did, he was there. Had a ton of breakups. Johnny West. He had a season that, kind of shocked everybody in the fact that...
It kind of went under the radar.
He went under the radar, and I told him, I said, if you actually look at his stats, he's the only kid that I've had that I think has had a 20-catch season, and he had 5 or 6 touchdowns. I go, Gertie's is the only other kid that had those kind of stats. Mm-hmm. So since I've been here, he probably has the second best stats as a receiver than anybody I had. And then the other guys were just outstanding as far as offensive line goes. I mean, Tanner Capon, Nathan Eaton, Joey Rakoski. 2 years ago, I would have said that kid would never start, and he was one of the best linemen we had.
Just talking to those kids before the season started, Rocco, they really have your 4 core values that you installed into the Conneaut Spartans. Every one of them have it.
Absolutely.
Like I say, I'm sure we've had seniors as good, but I don't know if we've had any better than the ones that we've had.
Yeah, as a group, they're just phenomenal.
Kyle Gaw, for instance, he had that big reception in the Grand Valley game that get your team right back in the game.
Right. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I take from Kyle Gaw this year.
Absolutely. And that was his role. So he's a great corner. He started receiver. You didn't hear too much about him, and then big game of the year, he gets a catch and goes 70. You know what I mean? It's just all heart.
Another big producer, of course, was Nathan Eaton, and unfortunately he couldn't play in week 10. Appendicitis. How's he doing from that?
He's doing pretty good. He said he's a little sore, and other than that, he's kind of recovering. So
he's going out for basketball.
Is he? I don't know.
That's what he told me.
Yeah, he might be.
He said he's going out.
I know he was debating it.
Joey Rakowski, what can you say about Joey Rakowski?
Great kid all around. He's one of them kids that, like I said, great, just a ton of heart, and ended up being one of our best linemen. And 2 years ago, I'd have been like, that kid's never going to play varsity, And then once he got confidence, I mean, he would be there in the summer hitting the sled by himself at 8 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? It's that kind of kid.
He's one I know for sure that takes your core values to heart just by talking to him. Jake Dobb, another one of those guys that kind of go under the radar. Jake Dobb and Tanner Capon, both of them sold me Spartan cards. I said, how can I not buy a Spartan card? Spirit cards. So they're great gentlemen.
Yes, I mean, I was watching the linemen the other day, like going back trying to do like stats for linemen and it was like the first play of the game against LeBray, Dobb pancakes a kid and puts him on the bat. I'm like, wow, that kid is just strong because we're talking about a good team here. And then defensive line, he was our defensive line. We got into a situation where Nathan Pape, after he had a couple injuries, so he got to the spot where he could start at guard. So we didn't need to start Jacob on offense, which put him full-time defense, keep him fresh. And he was phenomenal at three-tech. Just phenomenal.
Nathan Pape, of course, injury-free season. It was good to see him get all 10 games in.
It was. That's a kid that just a lot of heart. You come in with a banged-up knee, he can't straighten it. Yeah. Then he breaks his hand before the season starts, casts it up.
I know.
So he plays 10 weeks with the cast and a banged-up knee. And if you watch film, he's driving people. I mean, he gets on him, motors his legs, and he did a great job.
As we talked about Nathan Lauer, Jonathan West, you mentioned, and Alan Christine. He was one of those do-it-all guys. He even kicked for you this year.
Absolutely. Yes, we knew since his freshman year he was going to be a special kid, and he had some great catches at tight end, receiver. He was a linebacker, had a lot of tackles for us. And I think we got to week 6, and he was on scout team. He goes, "Hey, let me punt one." I'm like, "Ah, go ahead." And he booted it. I'm like, "What the? I got to put this guy."
Yeah.
So like week 6 on, he ended up being our punter.
One player I want to talk about quickly here, Rocco. He's not a senior, of course. We talked about him earlier. The quarterback, Brandon Smile. He had some tough shoes to fill, filling in for Tyson Hunt. Got off to a little bit of a slow start the first couple weeks, but I saw what I wanted to see. I saw progress as each week went by in his throwing ability.
Absolutely. It was just a matter of gaining confidence. He was a sophomore, he was growing. And sometimes early on what he was doing is he was trying to make the big play. And I told him, you don't need to make the big play yet. You got a bunch of other people that make the big play. Just make the safe play, and do what I'm telling you to do instead of trying to do too much, because sometimes he would get like, but I was thinking that, take the thinking out of it. You've been taught well, you know what to do, you're a great player. I mean, he's phenomenal arm, 6'1", 6'2". He lifted so much this offseason, gained weight. He just put himself in a great spot. I said, just play good football. I said, you don't have to do too much. Let everyone else around you do it. And he started doing that. And I mean, I think he had 3 interceptions or 4 interceptions in the first 3 games, and then he didn't have one until week 10 when he threw that screen pass. So, he ended up throwing as a sophomore like 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, which is a great ratio. He just hit over the 1,000-yard mark. He ended up getting 1,009 yards passing.
Good for him.
And he learned to not make those, make the bad throw. Just either eat it or throw it away.
Rylan Davison, we got to see him at quarterback a little bit late in the year. Impressive speed.
Absolutely.
He looks like Troy Calusi type speed.
Yeah, that kid works harder than anybody on the team probably. I mean, on his own. In the offseason, he does a lot. And he put himself in a situation where Brandon got hurt. He was able to step in there, and it kind of got back to the old days where you got a running quarterback threat. So we're like, well, we might as well go with him, Fedor, and Mikey. And you got 3 guys in the backfield. Who's got the ball?
Right.
And that kind of worked nice for us the last 2 weeks there.
Another guy that you got to be impressed with, I'm sure you are, Austin Pinkerton, had a big interception this year.
Absolutely. He ended up,
he's all over the field too.
He's another kid.
For a little guy.
He's another kid that just works hard. He is self-made. He's worked to a point to put him in a situation where he's a great corner and makes great plays when we need to make them.
I can go on and on and on, but I just got to ask you one thing. I got my next guest out there. You know that guy.
Absolutely.
The Downtown Coaches Club, they've got to be a big booster for you. They help your team out quite a bit, don't they?
Absolutely.
The team dinners and everything.
Absolutely. We as a program, we're very fortunate to have a group of people year after year. They're going to put a ton of time in, because there's not a whole lot of them. They're going to put a ton of time in to make the program very desirable to want to play. I mean, kids get a lot. I mean, they get fed. We have nice banquets. We do the reverse raffle to get that stuff, but we give them. They get T-shirts. They get sweats. They get the meals are ridiculous because every Thursday they have a team meal. You eat after the game on Friday night. When we don't have school on Fridays, they get breakfast. So because of them, we're able to take care of the players and make them really want to be a part of this family that we have going here.
Two good kickers, young kickers, Ethan Knight and is it Joey Merlin?
Joey Merlin.
They're only going to get better as well.
Absolutely.
They both play soccer. But I got to ask you, with all that speed you got, do you ever think about going for two?
Well, if we need to go for two, you know what I mean? It's one of those situations. If you need to do it, you need to do it. If things are going smooth, then I don't really think about it. It's just an added thing that, you know.
Two's better than one.
It is. It is. Some of my assistants coaches will say the same exact thing.
Well, Rocco, this has been fun and continued success for you. I had more questions here for you, but we'll just have to get them in at another time. Keep up the good work here in Conneaut, and I'm sure the future looks bright. I know the 8th grade team had a great year, so you got them to look forward to as well. So thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Rocco Dobran, head football coach for the Conneaut Spartans, my guest today on Around the Town with Chuck.